Lara Trump makes this RNC robocall, pushes bogus 2020 elections. Letitia James in New York just won a case because of campaign strategists doing the same thing. All right, here's the robocall.
Hello, I'm Stephanie calling for the Republican National Committee co-chair Lara Trump and the election security staff at the Republican National Committee on a recorded line. This is very important and I won't take up a lot of your time. But first, we want to thank you for your generous past support. And I'm sure you agree with co-chair Trump that we cannot allow the chaos and questions of the 2020 election to ever happen again. We all know the problems: no photo IDs, unsecured ballot drop boxes, mass mailing of ballots, and voter rolls chock full of deceased people and non-citizens are just a few examples of the massive fraud that took place. And it's pretty clear that the radical Democrat bureaucrats and politicians will do whatever it takes to ensure their fellow Democrats get elected. We cannot let this happen. If Democrats have their way, your vote could be canceled out by someone who isn't even an American citizen. Patriots like you, the people who actually pull the wagon in this country, deserve nothing less than free and fair election. That's what separates our great nation from a third world dictatorship.
Oh, okay. Put up the picture full man. So the RNC did this on behalf of Lara Trump. Per CNN, the Republican National Committee last week sent out a scripted robocall to voters to their phones on behalf of the new co-chair, Lara Trump, saying Democrats committed, quote, massive fraud in the 2020 election. It's the latest example of how the RNC under the former president's daughter-in-law is perpetuating lies about the 2020 election. As recently as February 2024, Lara Trump said she did not believe Biden received 81 million votes in the 2020 election. Now, naturally, she has to say that it's a prerequisite to have the job she has, all right? But is it not ironic that while they say Democrats orchestrated this whole thing, you know, Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, Chief Elections Officer in Georgia, who told Trump, hey, Mr. Trump, here's the problem. Mr. President, your numbers are wrong. He's an elected Republican. The governor, Brian Kemp of Georgia, who also said the election was riddled with integrity, no issues of election interference. Once again, an elected Republican, and the list goes on. With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show. The claim of massive fraud in 2020 in the 2020 election marks a significant shift in the messaging for the RNC. Now, I want you to pay attention because this is the part they master. The RNC has now pivoted to what? Massive fraud, okay? That is their pivot in messaging. So these are lies about the 2020 election. Had not been a consistent theme in its messaging since Donald Trump left office. Remember, the RNC did not push this narrative until Trump took it over. But the call's message is largely consistent with the views publicly espoused over the past 4 years by Lara Trump, who was elected as co-chair in early March as part of Donald Trump's takeover of the GOP proper. Lara Trump has a long history of echoing his election fraud claims, according to a CNN K-file analysis of her past statements as a commentator and surrogate for the former president. Quote, I'm sure you agree with co-chair Trump that we cannot allow the chaos and questions of the 2020 election to ever happen again, said the call, which was obtained by CNN's K-file from the anti-robocall application Nomorobo, which is estimated 145,000 calls were sent with the message from April 1st through the 7th. It comes amid previous CNN reporting about the RNC asking employees who are reapplying for their jobs whether they believe the 2020 election was stolen in an apparent litmus test for hiring. The RNC denied any such litmus test existed. It's just so insane. Lara Trump and new chair Michael Whatley seceded, Drew McKissick and Ronald McDaniel, who had earned basically backlash from former President Trump because of the way the messaging was handled about fraud in the 2020 election. It looks like since Trump has taken it over, they got their messaging all congruent now. So everybody's lying. There is no evidence of widespread voter fraud in the 2020 election, as even some state GOP elected or election officials and former Trump Attorney General William Barr have acknowledged. The former president and his supporters filed more than 60 court cases in 60 key battleground states following the election and lost every one of them, even in front of judges Trump had appointed. And they have still not brought forth any evidence of the rampant cheating they continue to talk about on the campaign trail, not an iota of it. But in the years since the 2020 election, Lara Trump has continued to push claims of voter fraud. Her comments have been in line with those of her father-in-law, who successfully reshaped the GOP in his image and easily secured his third straight GOP nomination this year. Polling, for example, shows that a majority of GOP voters think the 2020 election result was illegitimate. A CNN poll released last September found that 71% of Republicans said President Biden, quote, did not legitimately win enough votes to win the presidency, end quote. What does this say? It says that narrative trumps fact. I'm not making a pun about it, but that's what's happening. So the story, the narrative is successfully landing in many of these spaces. Why? Because they are attacking the messengers rather than the message itself. And so if it's delivered by a Democrat, oh, that's a Democrat. If it's delivered by somebody in the media, which by the way, damn near 80% of this stuff is delivered by some level of media. It's just the corrupt media. And then if they can't tag one or the other, they would just say you are a never Trumper. See how that works? So everything is an attack on the messenger while never addressing the message itself. Okay, Jordan, thoughts here?
Yeah, this is a family and now a political party who have built their brand around election denialism, around fraud, around corruption. And that's what they're making the argument going into 2024 as they continue to cry about alleged somewhere election fraud by individual voters. No, they tried to interfere in Georgia. He's still in court over his election interference there. They're raising money to pay off his legal bills through the GOP and through the party apparatus because of the trouble he's gotten in for this big lie. It's just it's really confusing to me. Like no one around them is telling him, hey, this isn't a cost-effective strategy. We're losing money by doing this. For every dollar we raise, we're not getting the full impact of that dollar for our campaign this year because it's going to legal bills on this lie. There's nobody around him, and that's what he's done. He's built the party, he's built a campaign with his family and sycophants, people who will just agree with him because the whole party revolves around this cult of personality. So it's funny, it's shameful, but also at the same time, as bad as it is, you kind of want it to go on because they're just burning money because they can't stop lying. They can't just accept and move on that they lost in 2020. Okay, you're running again now in 2024. They can't get over that one impediment in Trump's personal life. They have to continue doubling and doubling and doubling down on this lie, even when it costs them money.
All for the sake of not bruising the ego of one human being on this planet. And you're right, they are draining money to defend a lie. But in addition to that, they're now taking money away from Republicans running for Congress, Republicans running for governor, because the RNC has provided support to those entities in the past. That is no more.